Hello, I'm Harry Gross, and I'd like to welcome you to 542 Main. Today we have the privilege of talking to Dunedin's Mayor, Dave Eggers, and I'd like to welcome you.
Well,
Mayor.
thank you. Appreciate you being here this morning and doing a good job again.
Great. Well, it's early in the show, so that remains to be seen.
Yeah, really.
Mayor Eggers, you have been on the commission for, it seems like a while now. How long have you been on the commission, and how many of those years have been as the mayor?
Well, I started back in 2003 as a commissioner and served two terms and enjoyed it in total. And then decided I wanted to try to be the mayor of the city, and I started in '09. So I'm now on my second term as mayor of the city, and have just absolutely thoroughly enjoyed every minute of it.
And your background, I know you were heavily involved with the Chamber of Commerce at one point.
Yeah, well, when I first came to the city, I kind of came as a Little League volunteer. That's how I kind of got started. And then I moved my business here, real estate company, and then got involved in the chamber and leadership at the chamber, and got involved at Mies Manor as a volunteer. So just getting involved in different aspects of the city as a way to kind of give back a little time and energy.
Yeah, that's a good thing to do. It kind of gives you a background and sort of a broad base of what's going on, so that when you do enter the political realm, then you kind of know your way around a little bit, at least what the
it's just all
are.
about figuring out a way, as you know, to do something you enjoy doing, and then helping out your community. So it's been cool, been really good.
And I know there's a lot of challenges, which reminds me that I think it was last month the City Commission had its annual budget workshops, where you kind of hash your way through the nuts and bolts of the budget towards adoption in I guess the last meeting in September, is it?
Yeah, we have two meetings in September, so residents have an opportunity, in addition to those workshops, to come and listen, send questions. We're going to have a meeting this coming Thursday, where there'll be another opportunity for anybody who might have ideas, questions, thoughts, as we kind of have one more mini workshop actually during the commission meeting. In September it becomes a little bit more rubber stamp, but they are public hearings and they are public meetings, so people can come forward and ask questions in September.
That's one of the things that's impressive about Dunedin, and that I always thought was a great thing, is you don't do anything without a lot of input, and that includes the budget. And I know the budget's been pretty challenging for several years now. I keep reading in the paper that there's an uptick in the economy, employment is looking better. I saw something yesterday that residential real estate sales were up, or home prices were up by 27%. Has that uptick found its way to local government?
Yeah, I think it has. I think your first comment about involvement from residents is really important. I just wanted to comment on that first. We have a Board of Finance who is very involved. They're residents, just like we are, but they're residents that give their time freely to review every aspect of the budget. So in addition to residents being able to come and ask questions, email questions to us, they have a resident group by charter that goes through and talks to staff, talks to them about their budgets, and then reviews it with us. So we have like as you said, quite an involved process that gets to where we are. So I think that's a really particularly important thing that we have in the city, as you commented on. The uptick in the economy, well, we're all cautiously optimistic. We see the little bit of light at the end of the tunnel. I'm hopeful that that means that better times are ahead. I think this is the first budget that we've had in a few years where property values based on last year are estimated to be up just a little bit, first time in probably 6 years. So the adjustment has been huge at the city. We've gone from 403 employees back to about 330. And I say that because, well, some retired, but some had to go through this attrition process, and it's a very painful part of the downsizing. You say, well, it's just people that it was too inefficient. These are people's lives, and so I think as one of the things we have to remember or learn from that is that we have to be careful how we add people back, because the last thing we want to do is add people back and tell them they have a career ahead of them and have to do that again. So I really want to be careful as we expand. I think the uptick is there, but I don't think that we should view it as that yet. I think we need to continue to be fiscally prudent, being careful, add back ever so slightly where we really need it. We're doing our best to maintain the level of services in the city, and I think that's still the charge from the commission. This year, we've tried to hold that as well. There's a bit of a divisive commission as far as how they view the proposed millage rate increase, and I think there's still some discussion to go. But I think really the last thing that we need to be doing is taxing our residents more than they already are. So we'll have some more dialogue. At the end of the day, I think everybody's doing what they feel is best for the community. We just get there a little differently sometime. But good spirited debate is what it's all about and what residents expect. So
that's great. And you'd mentioned the point about the services. I know you've had to make some substantial cutbacks in personnel over the years. Which used to almost be unheard of in any government, much less local government. How do you meet that challenge of continuing to provide services in the face of that? I know the city, I recently attended the opening of the new playground at Weaver Park, and it seems like despite those challenges, there's still a lot of positive things for people to do in Dunedin.
Yeah, I think that's really what we're trying to do. I think the message over the last 5 and 6 years has been, we're going to try to stay where we are, maybe add just a few things. We added a small little park, an infill park in the downtown, from a driveway to a park, and it's really beautiful. I think we brought on Weaver in the last few years, and now a local group, the Dunedin Youth Guild, who gives back to its kids, the children of our city, donated a $200,000 wonderful gift for that new playground. So we continue to add incrementally a little here and a little there. I think the key message is that perhaps over the years we've gotten just a little bit too comfortable with the revenues that we had. And we just kind of expanded beyond really where we probably should have. And so this economy has unfortunately forced us to take a look more closely at how we do business. We've looked at efficiencies, effectiveness, and I think the employees here are working harder and better and smarter, and all the things that you do, they're really working their tails off for the residents of this community. And I really don't think people understand that enough. And if I could leave one thought about our employees, all you have to do is have an encounter with them for whatever reason. Maybe it's a pipe that goes out at your home, maybe you've got some other problems at your house, maybe it's bumping into some folks in and around the city that work here, maybe it's the folks that are doing the TV show every week, and the folks that hear from the community. They're all good people, and they are all professionals doing great work, and so to that end, it's been a really tough 5 or 6 years as far as that goes, and having to deal with that part of it, that part of the job, which is doing it for the residents. That's what we do it for. Do it for the residents. Bring the cost of doing business in government down, maybe to where it should have been before.
Yeah.
So
you do have good people from the city commission all the way to rank and file employees. And this is a couple of years ago, but an example, I was on Pinehurst Road one day, and there was an elderly lady waiting to get across the street, and I was behind a city truck, and the driver stopped, put his flashers on, got out, and walked her across the street. I mean, and it was just like,
it's pretty cool.
It was it was moving. It's not something I expected
to
see, but it was just a great thing.
Yeah, I think that just we got stories like that. We get letters from folks telling us how great the folks are that work here, and we know it, and we probably all take it for granted too, the level of work that they do. But we're blessed and lucky. Yeah. So,
speaking of being blessed, the city of Dunedin has been blessed and still is for 35, 36 years with the Toronto Blue Jays, making Dunedin their spring training home. And I actually had a question I wanted to ask you about that, but one of our residents, Jerry Kurshan Buer, I hope I pronounced that correctly, also was interested in what's happening with the Blue Jays. I mean, how many years are left on the agreement, and what's your assessment of our chances of keeping them?
Well, first of all, the Blue Jays have been part of the landscape of this city for over 36 years. Their contract goes for another 4 years through the year 2017. spring training and the regular season of 2017 will be here. I've been told by the president they're going to honor that regardless of what happens. They're going to honor that, and they're not leaving early if they do leave. So, you know, that will end up being 40 years in the length of a city that's, over 100 years old, but not too much more than that. That represents a large time that the Blue Jays have been here and a part of this community. We have an incredible group of volunteers in the city. We have an incredible golf club and Arts Center, and you can go on. They're all what makes Dunedin special. So keeping the Blue Jays here is really important. We had a little bit of acrimony the last time that the renewal was up about 15 years ago, and this time it's a lot different. The president that's in place is just a first-class guy who really likes Dunedin and likes what Dunedin has meant to the Blue Jays. Having said that, we've got a challenge ahead of us. I have been lucky enough in the last probably month to have weekly conversations. We're trying our best to lay the groundwork for what we hope will be good, fruitful discussions and negotiations. There's a new toy, and there's a new toy being shown around the state. The state, which I'm not quite sure I get in some ways, I get in other ways, are looking to make sure that they have enough teams on the East Coast. So they're really laying out the attractors, a $50 million attractor to have two teams, two cities, or two teams in one city. And the Astros and the Blue Jays are being talked about going to the East Coast. It's real, and in fact, one of the conversations I had this past week is that this very week the Blue Jays will actually be there to explore what may actually be going on. There's some things that are being talked about. So to that end, it's very real. I would say the chances of keeping them, in my mind, are still less than 50-50. I feel we've got a real uphill battle. What I'm hoping for is that the Blue Jays will realize how important Dunedin is to them. They've had generations of Canadians that have come down here and made this place their home. They've had generations of Dunedin folks that just go to the ballpark every spring training to sign cards and get cards signed by players and have some fun with it and have part of Major League Baseball here in Dunedin. And then, of course, the regular season. So it's all very critical and important part of this. And I think the residents feel that. And like everything, sometimes you take it for granted. I think the Blue Jays have us, and perhaps we have the Blue Jays over the last 36 years. Had some ups and downs. But I think for the most part, it's a very healthy relationship right now. And the residents, and I believe the business community, is solidly behind keeping the Blue Jays here. So we will hopefully have that sit down with them and lay out our best or second to top best alternatives for them that will, probably give them a new stadium, that will probably give them an expanded clubhouse, that will probably give them some additional fields near the stadium. All of that kind of mixed together, in addition to being in probably the finest community in Florida. It's in probably the most densely populated county in Florida, where tourism is just incredible draw, that they would find it important to stay here. There's probably 4 other teams within a half an hour or so, 45 minutes of here. So they have those teams. The Phillies that are in their backyard are even a team from the other league. They like to have teams in the other league to be able to play or practice with, and they're here. If they go to Houston, if they go to the other coast, Houston's in their own league, something that they've always said that they don't want to happen. So a year ago, I would have said the chances were probably about 75% that we would keep them. As the year moved on and we started having dialogue today, this opportunity on the East Coast has come up and is very real. It's like a nice, new, shiny toy, and I think they're attracted to that. I'm hoping at the end of the day, they'll see that we have equally nice facilities planned for them within a community that has embraced them. Major League Baseball is all about tradition and history and all of that, and we have that right here in this community. So I'm hoping that they appreciate some of those things and really sit down and have serious dialogue. That hasn't happened yet. I'm hoping that it will.
Given that, given everything you just said, is it appropriate, and if it is, do you think it's too early to start considering a potential life after the Blue Jays, other uses of the facilities and property?
Yeah, I think staff has done a good job at the direction of the commission to put thoughts together about how we might keep the Blue Jays here. That includes doing some physical dimensioning around town at different facilities. It includes putting a marketing piece together, not only to remind ourselves sometimes, but also the Blue Jays how special this area is and this community is. So that is ongoing. And I think right now, in our target is a Blue Jay. At the appropriate time, and that may be, in 2 months, it may be in 6 months, if we don't have a chance and they just say thank you and we're moving to another location, we will then focus on another team or two. We are in the process now of trying to understand what that market is all about. It's kind of like musical chairs. Unfortunately, as the cities dance around these chairs, we're finding that there's less and less chairs. Some of them have moved to the west coast. Some of them are now coupling up to two teams in one stadium. So it's becoming less opportunities out there. So we'll explore that. We're trying to get a sense of that as well. And I believe that if we continue to handle this situation professionally with the Blue Jays, and that is doing what we can to keep them here, that they will become allies of a sort to help us get some inroads into Major League Baseball and have another team come here. Some team that may not take for granted as much as others what they have here in this county, what they have here in this city. It's just incredible, and I think sometimes you have to kind of be reminded of that, which is why we're kind of going through developing a marketing piece.
I don't think a lot of people realize that the impetus to keep spring training teams here is all about economic development. And I think that our Chamber of Commerce, Schiller University, and even the state does a study every year that has consistently proved that the benefit of an individual spring training team to the surrounding area and to the city that team's located in can be tremendous.
Yeah, and one of the things that we are doing is we're kind of going back to that '09 study that the state did, the group that did this for the state, and asking them to update that, kind of give us a sense of where things are now, and to kind of bring it in more towards northern Pinellas County impact and Dunedin. So it's important that you get a kind of a feel for that. But I will say that one of the many things that attracts folks to Dunedin is our charming, quaint downtown. And every single business in that community relishes the fact that the Blue Jays are here. They come in spring. They're here during the year. The Canadians come. Whatever the combination of tourists, Canadians that live here, the whole dynamic is wonderful for their financial viability. And one of the things that we want to do is keep that downtown buzz. Throughout this downturn in the economy, we've had very few, if any, vacant stores. And when they are vacant, they're filled probably within a month. So downtown continues to be an attractive place to be for a whole lot of reasons. One of them is the Blue Jays.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, and you can really see it on game day. The number of people walking downtown, walking up and down Douglas Avenue, eating at the restaurants. Economic development has always been a priority of the City Commission. I know that's the case. And you talked about downtown. I also noticed when I drive around the 580 corridor, Dunedin Causeway, Frenchie's got some press recently when they announced that they were opening a restaurant on Dunedin Causeway, which we're all pretty excited about, those of us that are Frenchie's fans. And you made the point, there's other towns, and there's one town in Florida that I really like to visit that also has a quaint downtown. Last time I was there, I noticed they had an awful lot of vacant storefronts. When I go around Dunedin, and I'm not just talking downtown, but almost any place, I don't really see too many vacant storefronts. How do you assess the economic pulse of Dunedin right now?
I mean, I think we have a lot of what I would call local small business owners. We don't have as many franchises in Dunedin. So you have people that before they go into business, they're not only committed to making money, but they're also committed to whatever that passion is. So they put their life savings into to a location, and I think that in itself separates this neat little town that we have from a lot of communities. One of the things that we've worked on over the last 5 years and continuing to develop it is our corridor studies, which talk about the Causeway, we talk about 580, we talk about Douglas, and we talk about Patricia. Each of those commercial corridors that is going to, in the future, have a combination of businesses and residences, and we're looking at how we can best develop those corridors. Clearly on Patricia Avenue, we have what I call, used to be called the Nielsen property, I'm calling the Patricia 25, whether it sticks or not. It's 25 acres of land, zone light industrial, that is set aside right now for some kind of industrial and or office facility that can bring jobs to the city. One of the things that Dunedin is 95% residential, so we have very little commercial, an opportunity to diversify our tax base. So that's going to be important that we maintain some job aspect to that area. Now there may be a mixed use, maybe some residential there too. The county's very dedicated to keeping it light industrial. I think our sales job to the county to release that would be to say we're going to keep a lot of it for some office development, which will also bring jobs. We'll have retail there, but we're also going to have some office opportunities to bring jobs. If you go up just up the street a ways and take a right onto Virginia and go up around the corner, you'll see one of those businesses that has said Dunedin is special. We want to bring our corporate headquarters there. So Achieva has brought their corporate headquarters here in Dunedin, finishing up a beautiful new facility. They'll have, I think close to 250 to 300 jobs there.
Really?
A little bit higher paying jobs, all of it which will add not only to buying goods in our community, but also potentially moving to our community some of those folks. So I think it's a good thing, and I think we need to continue to push that. Downtown has a great opportunity. Several properties in downtown that we're looking to develop, including the Pizzuti property here, we call it the Gateway, which will be a combination of retail and residential rental, which I think the downtown needs. You need a little bit more mass in downtown so that we can attract that small grocery store, so we can attract a small drugstore, that where there's more mass here to actually make those businesses viable. And then if you go out to the Causeway, it's got all kinds of potential along that Causeway. We have an area that we've designated commercial. If you go further out on the Causeway, it's designated residential. We've got the big center there on the corner, which, in long-range planning could be a town center. There's all kinds of opportunities there, I think, for development, the right kind of development for our community. As you said, Frenchies and the people behind Frenchies have seen Dunedin as that next place too. They bought the Island Outpost there and have set up shop there, and they've also, a group of those same investors have invested in a new facility right at the point in downtown. So they certainly see that Dunedin not only weathers the storm during the bad times, but as the good times come back, I think Dunedin will just simply soar economically, and they want to be a part of it. So,
and being a part of it, the one impression I've gotten driving down Patricia and looking at the beautiful landscaping that's been put in down there, it's just really changed the appearance of that corridor. It just seems like the city of Dunedin, as a local government, seems to maintain an active role in trying to create and foster that business-friendly environment.
that is a great point. I think that's what we did in downtown back in the late 80s. My predecessors, and you were here, Harry, when we decided that downtown needed to be its own taxing district, and that we needed to make sure that the infrastructure in downtown was the way it should be to attract private investors. And they did come. One by one they came, and the community has grown a little bit incrementally each year. And it's still got some potential growth. Same thing about Patricia Avenue. When you put those trees down that, it just transformed the feeling that you have as you drive down there with some landscaping. And of course, at the end of the day, it's all about business vibrancy and places to live. That's the next step, and I think what the Patricia 25 opportunity will afford a really good developer, a chance to really make business and residential kind of mix together for another healthy corridor in our city.
Keep plugging away at that name change too, because I think moving on from an old name is very often a good way.
That's looking backwards. We're looking forward. You're absolutely
that's
right. Thanks, Harry.
We'll be back with more 542 Main after this.
If a citywide emergency were to happen, how would you find out about proper procedures during a critical event? The City of Dunedin, which is dedicated to quality service, has contracted with Code Red to better inform our citizens in the event of an emergency. Code Red is an invaluable service that delivers a pre-recorded phone message from your city's Emergency Operations Center describing the situation to residents and businesses directly or by leaving a message on an answering machine in the affected area. If you reside or own property within the incorporated limits of the City of Dunedin and would like to receive Code Red emergency messages, visit the city's website at dunedingov.com and click on the Emergency Services link on the left side of the home page. To stay informed in the event of a citywide emergency, sign up for the new Code Red notification system through the city's website, dunedingov.com. Get inside the fitness rooms at the Dunedin Community Center. You'll find a fully equipped workout area with Nautilus machines, cardio equipment, and free weights. There's also an exercise studio with a spring floor for jazzercise, dance, and martial arts classes. Come in and ask about a program designed for your fitness needs. Get inside the Dunedin Community Center.
Dunedin always has a lot going on, and one of the things that I'm seeing right now, I know it's gearing up to happen, is basically a rebuilding of the seawalls and probably some of the docks at Dunedin Marina. Now, I understand that seawall system that's in there now was actually put in the 1930s. Mm-hmm. So can you get that same contractor? It's lasted a long time.
I was going to say, it held up pretty good, didn't it?
Yeah.
We're trying to build new facilities now that have that 75-year life to them. Our new fire station that's going up on Michigan is going to have a longer life expectancy than the one that was previously built. So we're trying to go back to the good old days where things last longer. And clearly the marina is one of those, I don't know, attractors to our community. I think everybody loves to walk down there and see the boats, and you know, there's a little park there, and it's beautiful, Edgewater Park, and then you can park there and walk down our linear park down Edgewater Drive. You can go out to the beach area right over there by the boat club, and there's sailing groups that sail right off that area. So it's really important that we maintain the infrastructure so that it, you know, obviously doesn't fall in on itself, but so that it continues to attract boaters, not only the ones that are here year-round, but also that transient slip, that we can start to get folks coming into the community, park their boats, have a bite to eat there. We have a restaurant, 2 restaurants right there, and also walk up into our downtown. We've gone out of our way to connect the downtown with the marina. Beautiful new walkway that's being built with nice places to sit. More trees, as you talk about, that kind of delineates the corridor. And then obviously just another opportunity for somebody to say, oh, there's a 200 Main, there's a beautiful piece of land there where we think that we can fit in to what Dunedin's trying to do. So that means that the marina itself needs to be right. And so we're spending some money. The boaters there have put money in with their rent every month. Part of it goes to operations and part of it goes to capital. Most of the capital in the past has gone to dredging, so some of that's going to be diverted to fixing these seawalls. Critically important that we get that right, and between this coming budget and the following year, I think the seawalls will be secured again. I mean, not that they're about to fall in, but we don't want it to come to that in the next 3 to 5 years, so we're going to ensure that they're here for the next 45, 55, 65 years. So,
and that's one thing too that I'm not sure everybody realizes, is that projects like that at the marina actually are paid for by the people who have boats at the marina.
Yeah, we call them, as you know, enterprise funds that mean that those facilities support themselves for the greater good of our community. I mean, those are 2 key components that people have to realize. They support themselves operationally and capital, but it also serves as a greater good for our community. It's a beautiful place to go to, and I think people enjoy that part of our city, and it's not real big, but it's charming and quaint, and it fits Dunedin. So People
And
really
it's-
enjoy it.
And it's got history. At one
Yeah.
time, I think that was the only park in the city. And I remember when I was a child going down there
Yeah.
to watch from everything from Sunday school outings to watching the fireworks at the 4th of July. That the park was the meeting place.
Used to be the library down there long,
That's correct.
long
That's
time
right.
ago.
I'd
So
forgotten
there's a
about
lot of
that.
history
That's
with that
right.
park, and
That's
so
right.
we're doing what we can to make sure that it stays.
Well, you've mentioned a couple of the projects going on in that area. Dunedin's always got projects going on. I know on my way over here this morning, I was getting ready to turn right on San Christopher, and that section was closed for some road work. Are there any other big projects going on around town that are just right off
Well,
the
I
top
think
of your
I
head?
think the city, the economy is starting to warm up a little bit, as we spoke about earlier. The residential market is really doing well, and there was a report just this past weekend, that showed that residential sales are up. I mean, I wanted to say it was like 27%
27%, I
over
saw that.
last year, and those are the values that are going to be in there for our 2015 budget, not the one we're working on now, but the one after that. So I think there's going to be some real potential for new revenues here in the community, and so there are some projects that are going on that obviously will add to that tax base. A couple of the Dollar General store, Family General varieties are coming into town in properly zoned areas. They had to make a tweak on the one on St. Christopher on part of the land, but they're coming in. There's probably a half a dozen of them, and probably that's about all that you'll see. There's several people that are poking around a little bit out on the causeway on some land out there. We've had several people inquire over the last 2 years on the big center there. Of course, that's a privately held center, so to the extent that somebody comes in and talks to the owner about interest in selling, they come to the city to talk about an idea here or there. And there's been a number of ideas, a town center idea, a mixed-use facility. I know in that 2-year period, Walmart grocery store approached the city just about whether it would fit there and the whole kind of thing. But from the standpoint of anything being imminent, no. The owner there has clearly got a personal decision to make, and we'll continue to talk to anybody who's interested in an idea or a concept there. So, but nothing that I know of is imminent at all.
And I know there's a development process when somebody comes forward with one of those new ideas, and I know that one of the very difficult things for the City Commission is you very often have to balance between what people do or don't want to see coming into an area with the property rights of the individual or people that own it. And
it's a great point. First of all, we in this country, and certainly we in this city, believe in property rights. So there are properties that are zoned, have land use and zoning that indicate what can be built there. What we realized about 6 years ago, as the economy was really heating up and land prices in downtown were going through the roof, that to return the proper investment to those owners, they were going to have to max out on each piece of property. And I think it scared the commission. We went through a visioning workshop back in 05, 06 that kind of said, we want to tone that down a little bit. We don't want to be, 80-foot buildings from the waterfront all the way up to the Mies Manor location. I mean, as it goes up further away, we get a little bit higher buildings, but we want it to have that charm and quaintness. So whatever we can do to relieve the pressure on new business owners from having to go bigger and deeper, we should explore. That's really a critical point. So in downtown, for instance, we're looking at parking banks. There's a parking requirement. Maybe you don't have to put it on the property. Put it somewhere else, pay into a parking bank. We're looking at stormwater banks. And we continue to look at the LDO, which is a fee that is there for park expansion. And so we're trying to look at all those things and be fair and reasonable, because I think at the end of the day, the higher those costs are, the more it forces people to build higher and more dense and less charming and less quaint. So I think that's a real thing that we have to really focus on. There's a lot of good possibilities of quality development to be done in downtown. It will take our downtown to that next step. After all, the city and the county agreed for the next 15 years for sure, and perhaps another 30 years, that the CRA will be in existence, which is a critical piece. Ours was one of the first ones that got re-extended, but the warning was probably in another 30 years, don't come back again. Because when I say come back again, just so folks understand, all the tax dollars generated in the CRA stay in the CRA to help build the infrastructure and attract private ownership.
That's one of the reasons downtown's what it is now.
Exactly. So we'll continue, again, we'll continue looking at the corridors, all of them, to make sure that we're doing what we need to be doing to maximize business opportunities for small businesses, for small developers to do things the right way. What we need to do is make sure the infrastructure is right and that our fees are reasonable so that they doesn't force them to build something that we don't want.
That's one thing that's always impressed me about Dunedin. It's like you don't react to things. It seems like the city and everybody involved with local government and the chamber and everybody working together is, you're always thinking 10, 20, 30 years down the road. People are here for a reason, and let's make sure we know what that reason is and keep those qualities of the city that are going to make it desirable for years ahead.
Clearly, that's what we've done. And we got a little bit lucky back in that 06, 07 when land prices were going crazy, and we were seeing these developments that we were all wrestling with, that private property rights versus what we want to see in Dunedin. The economy kind of righted that a little bit. None of those developments happened.
Gave you some breathing room.
Yeah, prices came down. We redid some of our codes that made it a little bit more reasonable. And so now I think we're a little bit better situated. The prices have kind of come down to normalcy, if you will. And so developments, again, not only fees, but land costs are all part of what that developer has to build to recoup their investment. So if they're all a little bit lower, then that, I think, puts less pressure on making a development that just doesn't fit here.
We have some questions from citizens, but I have one more based on your tenure with the City Commission and from the thick of things, shall we say, from being embroiled in it all. You have had, it seems to me, constant challenges and issues to deal with in your tenure on the commission, and not just you, but the City Commission as a whole. Are you still enjoying the job?
Yeah, I got to tell you, you asked that question, and I got chill bumps a little bit, because truly, if you don't love your city and you don't love working for folks that just need your good representation, don't get into this business, because it's a tough job. But if you do enjoy all that, I mean, I would just recommend anybody that's out there volunteering that loves the city, try to get involved in some of our boards and committees, which are great steps into being commissioners in the city. It is the most rewarding job that I've done. It's just a great way to give back a little bit of yourself to make the place that you live special. So yes, I love it. I absolutely have enjoyed every minute of it. There are challenges, as you said. I guess that's what makes the job a little bit interesting. I think the biggest thing I would want is for folks to get more plugged in, so that they have more, they have a better sense, a better good feeling of coming forward and speaking their minds. We've had some issues this year where I don't think we got a good cross-representation of resident involvement and and I think we just need to keep doing what we can to do that, because we are kind of a bottom-up community. In other words, when I say bottom-up, I'm talking about everybody in the community giving input before decisions are made. It's not top-down. It's not, we have our ideas and visions of this community, but it's all about us working together. We're all residents of the same city. And so we want to make sure that we get as many folks involved. We're planning another visioning workshop next year. That'll be 10 years after the first one, and just before we have to turn in our comp plan in 2015. And that's what we're going to be getting. We're going to be getting input from all over the city, from folks that live here, a cross-section of age, a cross-section of financial well-being, whatever. We're going to get as much input as we can about what they want this city to be for the next 25 years. And that's critical. As you said, if we don't get that kind of input, this city isn't as special as it is, because it is what the residents want. And that's what we keep focusing on. It goes a little slower sometimes, but I think if you do that, you're doing it the right way. So I'll stay committed to that.
Well, that point bears repeating. One thing I've always seen is the city commission never shies away from making a decision, but you don't make it until you've heard all different points of view and heard what the people have to say about it. And that's
we have an
really
incredible city here, and I think as long as we can continue focusing on improving each of our corridors, continue in making sure that we have a good cross-section of activities for people to do here, because it's not all about the beaches, it's not all about the arts and culture, it's not all about the sports, it's not all about, but it's about all that. And so I think that's what makes this town pretty neat and pretty special, is that there's something for everyone. And you can get involved in your community, and I really ask folks to get involved, because it is a great place to help make a difference. So
they even have libraries in the park now.
Oh yeah,
I saw the little book outlet yesterday at Weaver Park when I was out there with the kids.
They opened their second library. That again is a library kind of youth guild kind of work together to do these opportunities. Just go open the library, take a book, and if you've got an extra one or two and you want to come back, leave another one in there, and it just kind of passes on.
What a neat idea.
I think it's very cool. So, what else you got there?
Well, we talked about people from the community giving their input and asking their questions, and we have a Facebook page, the City of Dunedin, and we have a couple of questions here. Kathy McGinn Spring comments that it's hard to imagine a better place to live than Dunedin, and the town just keeps getting better. Love watching Weaver Park take shape as one example, and she asks, is there any way that more Weaver Park style crosswalks could be added to help people move between the town and the waterfront? And that similar question was also asked by Lauren Lindsay Hollis, who asked when something was going to be done about the Skinner and the Trail pedestrian walk, because people aren't using the crosswalk button.
Yeah, one of the committees that commissioners, we all sit on county-wide committees as well. The City of Dunedin's of size that we get representation on all those committees, and one of them is the MPO. And one of the things that they've discussed is these cross-U.S. highway crosswalks at U.S. highways. If you'll notice on Skinner, for instance, and now at Weaver Park, they have flashing beacons as opposed to the old light style, because it just wasn't attract. This one really gets your attention. State law 2 years ago says if anybody walks into that crosswalk without the lights even, you're supposed to stop. I don't know if people understand that, but mid-block crossings you're protected that way. Well, we want to make sure that you're extra protected, so we put those beacons now there. We put little islands there so that if you get to the middle and find yourself stuck, which you shouldn't, because you should be able to cross all the way, at least you have a protected place. And it's come into play a couple of times, so that's a good thing. But we have little buttons that people are supposed to push when they get there. But you still find people, whether they just choose to ignore it or they don't realize that you hit the button to hit the lights, they go across anyway. So one of the things that the MPO is looking into is even having a pad on the ground before you enter the crosswalk that automatically, as you cross it, sets the lights off.
Good idea.
And so so that's what we're trying to do. There are several areas that we're trying to do that too, and it's a challenge. You got to work with FDOT. Their job is to move traffic. Our job is public safety. I'm not saying that theirs isn't public safety as well, but they want to move traffic. That's their primary function. We bring to light areas that we think need extra help. They seem to be fairly receptive to that. So we'll just keep working on that, and at certain areas that need it. We're trying to connect the city with golf carts as well, and we have to go through the FDOT. If you're street legal, you can cross those areas, but if you're not, you cannot. So we're trying to work with the state, the FDOT, to do that, and we bumped our heads with them a couple of times. But the idea is to connect our community, and that's what the questions that you just asked. It's about connecting and connecting safer. We're trying to connect in many ways, different areas of our community.
And Dunedin was pretty successful. I remember that getting crosswalks across state and U.S. roads is not something that's easily done.
No.
And Dunedin's been successful in getting several of them now. So it's
and we'll keep working at it. It's all about connectivity and safety, and so both of those things are high priorities to residents and the commission. So we'll just keep working on it to make it a little better.
I have a question here from, this one switches out to the Causeway, from Gregory Scott Dawson, and he's wanting to know when it's going to be cleaned up. He says that it's no longer family friendly, people drinking beer, dogs all over the beach, four-wheel drive vehicles. He suggests that could you make it permit only for residents, and anybody else using it that wasn't a Dunedin resident would have to pay a permit fee?
I probably say no to the last question. I think we just need to do a better job of policing out there on the weekends. Like anything, it's like even downtown where they have a shortage of parking. It means downtown's become a success. When you have a lot of people out on the Causeway, it means that it's become a good destination. The Causeway, for the most part, is owned by the county. It is their job to maintain it. And I think, frankly, they don't do a very good job of it. We have approached them recently about taking that over and becoming the maintenance caretaker of that, and obviously getting reimbursed something from the county for doing it, because I think we know what we want to see and what needs to be done a little bit more hands-on. But to the area of not being family friendly, there's no drinking out there that's supposed to be allowed. So to the extent that we have that, we're not doing a good enough job either reporting it. If residents are out there and they see it, just call 911 and tell them that there's drinking out on the Causeway and it's offensive. Or we need to be more proactive and have more people out there on the weekends, making sure that they're doing things that they're supposed to be doing to make it a fan-friendly place. And I certainly understand those comments, and it's a continual battle. I think the first step is trying to get control of it ourselves so that we can maintain it and patrol it and do all the things that need to be done to make it a first-class park. I don't see it being an exclusive park for Dunedin residents. I just think that kind of goes against what this city is all about. We've always been inclusive of people that live here, but also people that want to visit here. And I wouldn't want to give tourists the wrong message that our city is trying to keep people out. I just think we need to do a better job, and it's a great question.
It might be hard to make it exclusive too, considering that so much of it's not owned by the city.
Correct.
And you know, you would
Absolutely.
You know, it might be worked into some type of an agreement, but
I don't think it's something that the city of Dunedin should want to do. You're right, it's the county property anyway, so we couldn't do it unilaterally. But I don't think it's not a message I think we want to send. I just think we need to control that property from a maintenance and care and policing activity, and so that it does become more of a fan-friendly, resident-friendly park. So I mean, I think that's really what we need to be doing, and we're working on it. But you know, things move slowly, so that's a work in progress.
I have one more question. The mayor sounds like a really impressive title, but believe it or not, you're not omnipotent. You don't have, you can be a tiebreaker sometimes, but you can, I don't think you're allowed to propose motions and things like that. You're one of 5 people that is in the governing capacity, but as mayor, if you could make things the way you want, and when you look ahead at the future of the city of Dunedin, what would that future be?
Well, first of all, I would say that I have worked with other commissioners and mayors for the last 12 years and 10 years, 11 years. And I've known others before, and every single one of those folks has worked hard. I mean, it is not an easy job. I mean, I'm telling, you know, most every week you're spending at least 10 hours a week, but there's times during the year where you're spending 20 and 30 hours a week getting ready for budgets and all of that. So that group of individuals that is chosen to represent their community has been wonderful. We have many differences, but I think the same goal is to make this community better. There's commissioners today that I agree with and disagree with on issues across the board. And that's okay. That's what we want. We want a diverse commission. We don't want 5 Dave Eggers up there. That's not what we want. We need a nice cross-section of folks that really reach out into the community. And I think that's really important. So I wouldn't change anything on that front. I enjoy being the mayor of the city, probably for no other reason than my grandfather was a mayor, probably 40 years ago. And he said he got to know people. He got to do a little bit for the community. and he got to ride in parades. I said, when I was a little kid, I said, you know, that's pretty neat. When I grew up, it wasn't about being a policeman or a firefighter. I thought that might be kind of fun to be a mayor. And then, of course, years go by, and you kind of forget those things until you decide you're going to do this, and you think back to your grandfather who was in it. And I just, it's been a thrill for me. People like approaching the mayor about their community. It's just as simple as that. I represent one vote on a five-person board, so you're right. I'm not omnipotent, nor would I want it to be that way. In a community like Dunedin, we have a strong city manager form of government, and I think that's the way it needs to be. We are very involved in those budget processes and everything else, but we also provide a nice outlet for the community. So the city, I think, is healthy financially. We are going through some transitions in how we set up our different reserve levels and our different enterprise funds, but that's a good thing to review those things from time to time. But the city's in good shape. As we look forward, I think we want to make sure that we keep being true to what we are, which is a small, nice, charming, quaint community that provides alternatives for many people to come to this community and raise a family, to retire, to have a business. All of that is critical for the success and well-being of this community. So we stay focused on that, I think, and continuing to make Dunedin a little bit better each year. Then it will just continue to be a special place for people to call home. And at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. Being proud of your community and being a place where people, they hear about it and want to come visit and then maybe call it home. So
that's great. Mayor Eggers, I really appreciate the time you've spent with us today. It's been very informative. I hope you found it informative as well and gained some insight onto how your city government works. For 542 Main, I'm Harry Gross.